Are we going to start soon?
Count till 5 and you can start.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is John Carroll. I'm the editor of Endpoints News, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's event, Italy on the Move, hosted by the Italian Trade Agency with the assistance of the Consulate General of Italy in San Francisco and in collaboration with Farmindustria, Kaithir Biotech, and Cluster Alizé in a joint ITA Invitalia program. I've had a chance to get to know quite a few different biotech and pharma companies out of Italy over the last few years, largely through this program, and it's been a fascinating process. We'll have a chance to talk to a few of the different companies here in just a few minutes. But first, we have a group of distinguished individuals here to provide the opening remarks today. We have Armando Barricchio, the ambassador of Italy to the United States, Manlio Di Stefano, Undersecretary of State for Foreign Affairs, and Carlo Ferro, the president of the Italian Trade Agency. And with that, I'm going to turn over the virtual platform to the ambassador. Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, John, for your very kind introduction. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. I'm so pleased to attend virtually this event. Of course, it would have been my greater pleasure to be in the Bay Area. I'm addressing to you from Washington, D.C. Mr. Undersecretary, dear President Ferro, distinguished companies, investors, ladies and gentlemen. It is important that despite all the problems that we have been facing and are still facing, that we have convened this meeting, because it is important to gather the most important leaders to exchange ideas and views on one of the most important topics of the day. Marked by the COVID-19 crisis, the year that just ended has highlighted even more so the importance of seeking global solutions based on multilateral cooperation, reliable science, technological innovation, and visionary investments. And this is especially true in the biotech industry, where research and investment are of utmost relevance for the global health. We all witness in the successful rush for a vaccine that has been developed, tested, and approved and distributed in record time. Biotech is a sector where Italy and the US are at the forefront. In 2019, the US has been once again the world's largest single pharmaceutical market. Italy is the first pharmaceutical industry by production volume in Europe. So it makes sense that the US is the first destination of our pharmaceutical exports. Worth 8.3 billion in 2019, it accounted for 18.6% of our total exports. Within this picture, it is key to continue embracing open innovation together with international cooperation and therefore improve the Italian presence in the Silicon Valley. We want to be in the Bay Area, and we will inaugurate this year the long-awaiting Italian Innovation Hub that will enhance the Italian presence as an active partner to promote startups, to open our big industry to the area, and vice versa, and to foster even further scientific collaboration and research clusters. During the pandemic, bilateral cooperation has been incredibly productive, enhanced by the outstanding contributions made by the many Italian scientists and researchers active in the US. Many Italian companies confirmed their successful business and research activities in the US. Kedrion and Bracco are prime examples of this, as is the more recent acquisition by the Italian Menarini Group of United States Stemline Therapeutics. I'm also pleased to see here today Rethera, the company which is developing the all-Italian COVID-19 vaccine, now in phase 2. But let me also mention the many startups focused on fighting cancer. As Pfizer CEO told me just last Monday, in the next decade, we will be able to see amazing discoveries and immense improvements against so many cancer types. I'm sure that Italian companies will successfully contribute to this endeavor. Italy's continuous presence in past edition of JP Morgan Health Conference has already enabled our most innovative biotech companies to establish important collaborations in the Silicon Valley and all the US. Today, we have another important opportunity to turn the spotlight of international investments to our exceptional research and industry in the biotech sector. So it is my pleasure to take the opportunity again to wish all participants buon lavoro, the very best for a productive session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. We'll now turn it over to Manlio Di Stefano, the Undersecretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. I want to first of all say to everyone that it is a pleasure for me to participate in this virtual event. Italy on the Move 2021 Invest in Italy, organized in the framework of the JP Morgan Health and Science Conference of San Francisco, one of the most relevant gatherings in the sector of life science globally. Let me first of all thank those who have worked for the organization of this important initiative. The Ambassador of Italy in the US, Armando Varricchio, the Italian Consul General in San Francisco, Lorenzo Ortona, the Italian Trade and Investment Agency and its office in Los Angeles, and the FDI desk in San Francisco. My greetings also go to all the Italian startups and companies and organizations participating in today's event. The pandemic shook the world last year and demonstrated, if necessary, how crucial it is to address today's health and wellness challenges to preserve the safety of our communities and to promote a sustainable and inclusive growth of our countries. As Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and as Italian government, we consider fundamental to support research and innovation in healthcare, pharma, and biotech, sectors in which our country expresses excellences at the global level. The historic visit of His Excellency, the President of the Italian Republic, Sergio Mattarella, in the Bay Area in October 2019, in the framework of the first Italy-USA Innovation Forum at Stanford University, is the perfect symbol of the importance attributed by Italian institutions to the cooperation between our countries in research and innovation. The role of the private sector is crucial in boosting innovation progresses and drawing promising paths in health science. JP Morgan Healthcare Conference is an indisputable chance to promote fruitful interactions between operators and investors, and for our country to present our innovation companies and startups ecosystem and investment opportunities. Italy is a global actor in the pharmaceutical sector and the leading producer in Europe with a volume of 34 billion euros in 2019. We experienced the biggest increase in exports during the last 10 years, plus 117% compared to a plus 58 average in main European partners. And we are currently among the top 10 export countries worldwide. These remarkable results are, first of all, the outcome of significant investments in research and development that grew by more than 30% from 2013 to 2019, reaching 1.6 billion euros, 10% of the total R&D investments in Italy. Another strength of the Italian pharma industry is the presence of important multinationals and companies with foreign capitals, which equal 60% of companies operating in the sector in Italy. Our country is in fact one of the top EU destinations for investments of multinationals, especially from the USA, Germany, France, and Switzerland. What attracts foreign companies is above all the quality of our workforce and our research capabilities. An additional point of strength lies in the potential of the local and regional clusters, which favor the consolidation of the life science supply chain in the country and that make our system a reference point for foreign companies and investors. Also from the perspective of the clinical trials. An excellent example of cluster and of a fruitful private-public partnership is the Milan Innovation District project, an area where we can find the Research Institute Human Technopole, the new Italian Institute of Research in Life Science, the Hospital Paul Galeazzi, and the new scientific campus for the Milan University. This district favors positive spillovers and connections, and it contributes to stimulate private and public investments in research and promote the scientific culture. If pharma is a well-developed industry in Italy, biotech, where 80% of the operating companies are small and micro-sized enterprises, has high potential for growth. At the end of 2019, the biotech companies in Italy amounted to around 700, with a turnover that exceeded 12 billion euros. In the first 9 months of 2020, 44 biotech startups were registered, a sign of the prompt response of the sector to the emergency due to COVID-19. To improve the long-term competitiveness of the sector, the Italian government has designed different schemes to support and finance innovation. Among others, I want to mention the National Innovation Fund, funded with 1 billion euros and managed by Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, the Italian sovereign fund. We also want to support our innovative startups and technologically innovative sectors in their process of internationalization through targeted financing instruments, including the instrument of venture capital fund, the public fund managed by the Italian Agency for Investments Abroad, the so-called CIMEST, which operates under the supervision of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to support the internationalization of medium-large Italian companies. Moreover, with our global startup program that aims at accompanying Italian startups in their process of acceleration through training and networking programs abroad. To conclude, I want to highlight that in Italy, we are further strengthening the R&D and startups ecosystems for the private sector. But our country presents a comparative advantage on the research side, and we are ready to collaborate at the international level to attract the development side of R&D, looking for investors ready to help us grow and harvest our potential. I wish you successful contacts and connections through this networking event, hoping that the breathtaking pace of innovation we have seen in life science in recent years will offer us the tools to address the big challenges ahead of us. Thank you for your attention and really wish you the best in your work that is coming after this event.
Thank you as well. Okay, we'll now turn things over to Carlo Ferro, the president of the Italian Trade Agency.
Thank you, John. Good morning, everyone. Undersecretary Onorevole Stefano, Ambassador Orecchio, Consul Ortona, all distinguished speakers and participants. This JP Morgan Healthcare Conference is really the main global event for life science, and today's event on Italy on the Move is a unique showcase for the Made in Italy most innovative and promising companies. Therefore, I'm glad that we can hold it also this year, despite the circumstances tough in a remote mode, thanks to our new B2B platform called Fiera Smart 365. I want, first of all, to thank our partners in the organization, the Italian Embassy, our consulate in San Francisco, Invitalia, Sobiotech, Farmindustria, and the Alizei cluster, whose teamwork confirms that we are working as a team and the synergies exist between all the players in this most comprehensive industry. The pandemic emergency changed a lot of our plan for the biotech industry events in 2020 and is forcing to some more proactive and different solution like that. But I would say that in this pandemic situation, the excellence of the Italian research continues to spot outstanding, like the case of, for instance, IRBM, a partner with AstraZeneca and Oxford University in one of the developed COVID-19 vaccine. And I'm glad, as Ambassador already anticipated, that today we have with us Reitera, another Italian emerging developer for COVID vaccine solution. Together with other 8 champions of the innovation, they will show immediately the combination of knowledge and talent that explain the strength in the global market of the life science industry in Italy. A recent research by Cerved has quantified at 92 billion revenues per year the overall size of the life science industry in Italy, 2/3 of which is represented by pharmaceutical, and the pharmaceutical exports about 77% of its production. Moreover, export for pharmaceutical will increase also in 2020, and this will be the 3rd year in a row that pharmaceutical ranks as the fastest growing industry for the Italian exports. Life science is also the first high-tech sector for venture capital and private equity investment in Italy. So for all these reasons, the Italian Trade Agency is committed to support all this industry on the global market. Really, it meets several of the strategic guidelines of actions. Reinforce the action thanks to Patto per l'Export under the coordination of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It meets the focus on innovation, the focus on SMEs, 80% of biotech industry is made by SMEs in Italy, the focus on the startup. And by the way, as we talk, we are hosting in parallel in these days 53 Italian startups at CES Digital. And we are continuing our global startup program that out of 135 participants will bring 7 in the Bay Area. So our participation to the 39th edition of JP Morgan Healthcare Conference and all the dedicated side events fit into a vision of the innovation boosting internationalization and internationalization helping innovation, particularly for SMEs. In these days, 20 Italian companies are participating at the conference. Today, 9 companies selected by our agency will pitch to qualified investors, and I want to thank the investor for being here with us. During the next 2 weeks, our digital platform, Fiera Smart 365, will host 62 companies for B2B meetings. So here, really, I wanted to conclude by congratulating the SMEs and the startups selected for these events, wishing them the best success. I'm sure that their ideas, their productivity, their talent will put them to follow on the footsteps of the Italian leaders in the biotech industry. Most of them are present in the conference, and some of them, which I wanted to thank, are here with us today. So now it's time to listen to them. I thank you and wish a fruitful afternoon.
All right. Well, thank you very much for all those remarks. It's been very interesting to hear. I think that there's obviously quite a commitment on the part of the Italian government when it comes to the biopharma industry and everything that's going on there. We're going to change the pace here a little bit. We're going to bring in a group of executives from 9 key Italian biotech and pharma companies who are in pursuit of a variety of different technologies and in pursuit of a variety of different kinds of outcomes in JP Morgan, if it is at all possible. We're going to start with a lightning round of presentations from everybody. Everybody's going to do this in 60 seconds because we have a limited amount of time, and then we're going to do a little bit of a roundtable conversation. So let me introduce all the different companies that will be talking today in order of the presentations. We have Maddalena Adorno, the co-founder and CEO of Dorian Therapeutics, Edo Madusi, the managing director of Euromet Pharma, Pierluigi Paracchi, the co-founder and CEO of Genenta Science, Marco Dieci, the CEO of Holostem, Marco Kevin Malisani, the CEO of Kaithir, Federico Parietti, co-founder and CEO of Multiply Labs, Claudio Panzarella, the head of business development for Avethera, Fabrizio Kines, the chairman and CEO of CIFI, and Bruno Bembi, the founder and chairman of Transactiva. So, Maddalena, you're on.
Thank you, John. So I want to introduce you Dorian Therapeutics. It's a preclinical stage biotech company based in California. Our focus is aging. We discovered at Stanford, and we are now developing further a new class of therapeutics that we call xenoblockers. Xenoblockers can reverse the process of cellular senescence while reactivating the regenerative capacity of a tissue. And as you can imagine, a xenoblocker can have a number of applications for age-related disorder, like osteoarthritis and Alzheimer's disease, as well for the improvement of cellular therapy like CAR-T. So right now, we are fundraising for our Series A, and we are seeking partnership to bring the xenoblockers to the clinic in several indications.
Okay. Thank you. Now, over to Euromet.
Thank you, John. That was quick, Maddalena. I hope I'll be quick as well. Euromet is actually a very recently launched subsidiary of a larger group. We are based out of New York City, and our purpose here is basically to support all different types of companies that are in the phases of drug development throughout the first R&D phase. So we don't develop drugs, but we actually help sponsor companies, and new companies develop their own drugs by outsourcing services that we provide throughout the world. This newly launched company is actually a very nice reality that stems from a Napoli-based distributor who has been in business in Italy for the last 60 years. They have now, throughout the last 20, ventured throughout the world, and it was the right time to basically set foot in the United States in this huge market with great opportunities and create a bridge between companies that are in the States and in Italy and support all of them in the drug development.
Very well. Okay, over to Pierluigi.
Yes, hi John, hi everybody. You know, John, that the first ever ex vivo gene therapy has been approved not in Silicon Valley, in Boston, Cambridge, but in Milan. So this is the excellence of our science, and Genenta is developing the second generation of that technology. The first one was based on rare diseases. Genenta is focused on oncology. Now we are a clinical stage company. We have raised $40 million US, and we are developing the science produced by Professor Luigi Naldini at Sarafe Hospital in Milano. Our chairman is a US guy, is the former, one of the two co-founders of Alexion, Steve Squinto. We have labs and office in Milano, but we also have an office since 2017 in New York City. Also in my board, let me mention also Guido Will, the former head of Novartis Oncology Pharma Europe, also one of the very active VC with Aurora Science in Italy and Europe. And between our lead investors, we have the Rovati family, the former owner of Rota Farm, now a very active investor in Italy and in Europe. And Lucio Rovati is part of our board.
Thank you. Over to Marco with Holostem.
Thank you, John. Again, another first in the title. Holostem was founded in 2008. It's a biotech company between a joint venture between a pharmaceutical company, Kaithir Biotech, and the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. And after a huge amount of scientific publication in 2015, the first regenerative product using epithelial stem cell were registered in Europe. This is Holoclar. Now we are commercializing Holoclar in Europe, and we are implementing the technology platform for the gene therapy platform in Europe. And what we want to do now is to implement this technology platform and the commercialization even in US. At the time being, Holostem is looking for a venture supported by a financial advisor, and we want to consolidate the gene therapy platform in Europe and in US as well.
Thank you very much. We now have Marco Malisani.
Hi there. Thank you very much. Kaithir Biotech is a preclinical stage biotech company. We develop new therapies for rare pulmonary diseases and needs. We have a unique expertise in identifying solutions to inhibit the transduction of signals into cells in the lungs. Our products have greater efficacy and safety compared to other approaches available in the market. Our key product is a proprietary compound to treat cystic fibrosis. We have preclinical data showing strong superiority versus the current market leader. This product has the potential to radically change the treatment paradigm of cystic fibrosis, a global market projected to grow in excess of $20 billion. In the pipeline, we also have a proprietary small molecule that has shown strong results in the treatment of IPF, another lethal orphan disease. Interestingly, this product has also strong potential for long-term use with many COVID-19 patients that develop serious pulmonary fibrosis. And we were asked to, what is our ask for 2021? Well, we just launched a Series B round for at least $10 million. We have soft commitments from existing shareholders, but we're very much looking to partner with a biotech investor that can provide strategic support in pushing product development and expansion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to Fred Torretti.
Hello, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Multiply Labs. We're a team of MIT-trained robotic engineers. We're based in San Francisco, and our investors are VCs that are both Italian and American, as well as Italian and American angels. Multiply Labs sells robotic manufacturing systems for the production of individualized drugs. The problem we are solving is that advanced drugs are very, very slow and expensive to make. As of now, they are made in small batches by scientists in clean rooms, so essentially by hand in a very unscalable manner. And so we really believe that the only way to scale the production of these advanced drugs is through robotics. And to solve that, we deploy modular cloud-controlled robots in the facilities of our customers to automate their processes. We have two business areas: clinical trial manufacturing and cell therapy manufacturing. And today, I also wanted to quickly mention a volunteer initiative we did in Italy, together with companies like ABB and Porsche Consulting, and with a big donation from actually the Rotary Foundation. We realized a fully automated COVID-19 testing lab in Bergamo, Italy, in record time, last year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to Rethara. Claudio.
Hello. Yep. Good morning and good evening to everybody. I'm quite happy to be here. So very briefly, Rethara is a biotech company with a long experience in the use of a viral vector that can be genetic vaccine or gene therapy, so for the treatment of different type of disease. The company has also a manufacturing capacity. From the scratch, we can really develop a manufacturing process for viral vaccine up to GMP, and in particular, we are validating our large-scale production, which include also 1,000 and 2,000 liter bioreactor, which is a quite peculiar situation in Italy, but also in Europe. As the company has been mentioned many times during this initial part of the discussion, and it is quite clear that we are developing a COVID vaccine. We have basically concluded what is needed related to phase 1, and that can help us to bring into the phase 3. Phase 2, phase 3 trial. So the safety and the preliminary efficacy were very good, very promising, and now we are very close to start basically the registrative trial. What I'm looking for at the JP Morgan and also in this conference is really try to find a partner which help us to spread the vaccine wherever it will be possible, because we are in a pandemic situation and everybody needs vaccination.
Thank you very much. Fabrizio Chinis.
Good morning. I would like to thank the Italian Trade Agency for inviting me today. My name is Fabrizio Chinis, and I'm the chairman and CEO of SIFI, an established ophthalmic company headquartered in Italy since 1935. SIFI develops and manufactures pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and nutraceuticals that are marketed in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Beyond Italy, we have commercial subsidiaries in Spain, France, Romania, Mexico, and Turkey. As part of a strategic review of our R&D pipeline, we decided to look for a partner interested in co-developing and/or in-licensing an early-stage pharmaceutical asset addressing unmet needs in certain retinal diseases, a market currently worth in excess of $10 billion. Our patented technology is the result of years and millions of dollars of investment, and based on the promising results so far achieved, we look forward to advancing this R&D program together with a committed partner. My team and I will be happy to answer any of the questions through the DMB platform after this event. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And finally, we have Bruno Bembi with Transactiva. Bruno.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon and good morning to everyone. Transactiva is a biotech company located in Friuli Venezia Giulia region, northeast part of Italy, near Udine. And the company develops green solution to produce biological drugs, particularly for rare disorder, orphan rare disorders. Essentially, protein, enzyme plasmid therapies, and monoclonal antibodies. Our mission is to make biopharmaceutical for rare diseases economically sustainable and accessible for a welfare healthcare system. That's a major point. We do so by employing whole plants and cell plants as bioreactor, a technology known as plant molecular farming. And thanks to the expertise of the team in medical, plant, industrial biotechnology, we possess a scalable platform for the production of biologics in rice seed. And currently, we are implementing, in conjunction with the academia groups, a new plant platform for the production of antiviral vaccines and antibody fragments in weeks. And also a plant cell fermenter to expand our capacity, production capacity, and our portfolio. Essentially, we are seeking for investors with expertise in working with biotech company to join with us. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to open up the roundtable conversation portion of this presentation where everybody gets a chance to offer some different ideas about what's going on and so forth. So one thing that I've always noticed or observed about the biopharma industry is that there's no borders around good technology. Good technologies can go everywhere. And recently, over the last 10 years, obviously, we've seen an explosion of globalization, particularly in the last few years. Over the last couple of years, we've seen an actual boom in terms of the amount of financing going into biopharma companies. Last year was unprecedented, surprising, astounding. You can choose whatever word you like, but it certainly took a lot of people by surprise because everything just exploded in a nice way. In terms of IPO financing, in terms of venture financing, in terms of pretty much you name it. So lots of stuff going on. So I wanted to get everybody's impression here because everyone out here, one of the big initiatives for most of you is to find new partners, is to bring in new money to your company, is to accelerate the advance of the technologies that you have. So when you look at this kind of an environment, where are the opportunities that you see and what are the limitations that you're trying to overcome? Who'd like to start? Kevin?
Hi, thank you very much. Yes, indeed. We're actually based in Turin, Italy, but we've been fortunate to have received significant support from Italian-based shareholders. But as we've launched our Series B round, we have quite strongly tried to attract both Italian-based biotech investors as well as biotech investors in the rest of Europe. We're also been working very hard to try to identify Silicon Valley and perhaps Boston-based investors in the US. There's clearly some logistics problems, but it is true that we are able to garner potential interest also on the part of investors that are quite far away from our local reality in Northwest Italy.
One of the things that we found out during the COVID-19 pandemic is one of the other things that's broken down is that people are more accessible, perhaps. There's not as much travel related to talking to people and so on, but a variety of the companies here are actually have facilities, have operations in the United States as one way of attracting additional attention. Madalena, how's that worked out for you?
Yeah, our company is it's based in the heart of Silicon Valley. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we closed the lab briefly. to reassess the situation and make sure that the team was safe and could operate in a safe environment. After that, the operation started again at full speed, and we have been fully operative since then. So being in Silicon Valley really also, as you say, things changed and the interaction with the investor also changed. Now raising a Series A, for example, means a series of Zoom discussion with investors. Somehow the physical proximity with where and the network that you can create here really helps developing things. At the same time, Italy right now feels more and more far away due to the fact that it's not possible to travel there. So especially if we want to develop a clinical trial, not only in US, but in Europe, it's important to develop partnership worldwide.
Okay, let's open it up. I mean, are there other opinions here, other observations in terms of financing an Italian company right now?
If I may, John, if I may, oh, thank you, John. So first of all, I want to say that, as you said at the beginning, biotech will save the world. So in this incredible, terrible year of crisis, our sector is booming, as you said, in terms of financing, IPOs, general numbers, and so on. And this, at the end, is great for the research and at the end for the patients, because we are here to treat and to cure patients. What I see as an incredible advantage to be based in Europe is that we have a great quality of science with less cost and competition versus US. So I think that is possible for European, for Italian companies to attract smart money from the east of the world, from all Europe, and now from US. Also because I think that the valuation of the US companies are very aggressive, and there are a lot of venture capital there that are fighting to invest in the best opportunities. If they start to see and start to evaluate companies in Europe, that they can find that the quality of science is comparable, but the valuation is really another story. I think that at the moment there is a 30–50% discount, European discount, unjustified for the European companies. So it's possible for the smarter crossovers out there to make, let me say, just an arbitrage to move the company from Europe to US and to create value and to attract a ton of money. This is an advantage that we have and a card that we have to play in this booming market.
Okay. Edo, what are your observations about this?
I put myself mute. I think for us, being present in the United States was absolutely necessary to be able to be close to the sponsors and the partners that we are supporting. As Maddalena was saying, funnily enough, the fact that we are now here makes us feel further away from Italy and further away from the European countries, because when you do have to set up a proper clinical trial, there is the physical component that is required to be able to establish something that is long-term and requires a proper setup. So the Zoom meetings are useful maybe for the preliminary parts of the business development component, but it is impossible to set up a proper clinical trial and work on a protocol design through a Zoom meeting and bringing together all the people. Normally these are events where we sit down and we bring people from all over the world in one location and we focus on it at a very specific time.
One of the areas that I wanted to explore here in this roundtable conversation is the notion that I think a lot of people in the industry tend to look to the United States as kind of like the place. It's where the most of the money is, but on the other hand, it's not where all the money is. And you've seen a new arrival in terms of China coming in. A lot of Chinese players. There's been a tremendous amount of tension between the United States and China over the last couple of years. That may be about to dissipate. We'll see what happens on that score. But it's more than just the United States. And I'm curious whether anyone on the panel here has got a particular opinion as it relates to the globalization process and the implications that has for Italy in terms of bringing in new players, perhaps bidding up the value so that you don't have the 30 to 50% discount. Has anyone seen any of that kind of development? Fabrizio, what's your own take on that?
Well, I think that part of the answer was already given by Pierluigi earlier on. Depending on where you are located and, of course, the kind of technology you're working on, you might experience a higher valuation from the exit throughout the fundraising phases. And we're seeing that China is actually doing better than Europe at that. And of course, whilst they represent a major market in terms of patient population, it also increases the stakes in R&D, patent applications coming from there. So it is, of course, something that, depending on the size of the company, requires your attention. But indeed, the US remains, in my view, the most competitive environment. And at the end of the day, it's whether you have a perspective of a buyer or a seller. But indeed, in Europe, we have great science, but the financing and exit environment is not as it is in the US and in China. But it's important to partner with established player there to make technology available outside of your home territory, like we are discussing here from Italy.
I've noticed in the United States, one of the downsides of the American market is it tends to be kind of overwhelmingly the subject of attention within the United States, that it seems like there's such a concentration on what happens in the United States that it doesn't tend to extend as much as it might, or as much as it should, to other countries in Europe as well as in Asia, as we've seen with China. Although I think that that's changing, and I think that we're likely to see some changes in terms of how that plays out in the next few years. Bruno, I mean, from your perspective, are there any kind of global changes in terms of financing trends that are going to affect your company?
It's very difficult to answer correctly to your question. We participate to many European meetings and Italian meetings in terms with investor companies and also with public health authorities. What I said in the meeting we had some days ago, what we saw is that we can find financial support, particularly for a small company as our company, and with some particular field of development of plant molecular technology, something that is sometimes viewed as suspicious, you know, not understand for normal pharmacological companies or investors. And we found a lot of bureaucracy as a critical point, and a cultural gap between investors, particularly the group we met in our way, and our proposal. One great difficulty is to find early phase investor. You know, we have in this moment we have developed a therapy for a rare skin disorder. We are in more or less in an animal phase. So we have produced the drug. We have tested on rats. We have tested. We made in vitro testing, all of that. But always the investor we met answered, you are far from the clinical trial. So we have the last kilometer, you know, to cover. We have the economy to arrive to a certain point, so to preclinical study, okay, to finish the animal trial. But when you have to develop a GMP, when you have to produce the drug in, let me say, an industrial manner, just to arrive to the market, you need a huge amount of economy. And this is something that creates the great difficulty for the small biotech companies, particularly when you came out from the public health system, as in our case, or from the academic spin-off. So for me, the major critical points are the difficulty to find early phase investor and the gap, the cultural gap that you have with a very well-prepared scientific teams in Italy and not so well-prepared decision makers team. You know, so this gap is something that we have to cover. Otherwise, there is no possibility to understand what the scientist is telling and how you can finalize the economic support for a company. Or less this.
All right. Would anyone like to comment on what Bruno had to say?
I mean, if I may another time, John, we raised money from China, from a Chinese investor. And this is, I think, part of a trend for the geopolitical reason that you mentioned. So now for Chinese, it's not easy to invest in US-based companies, and they are discovering Europe, and they are discovering what it said before about the quality, the science, and the fewer presence of venture capital there. For our Chinese investor, Genenta is the first investment outside China and the US. So I think this is not only an example, but it is part of a trend that can really give us the opportunity to raise money, let me say, in competition with the US. So now the two great markets, now maybe for the first time, US has a real competitor. And also NASDAQ has a real competitor, that is Hong Kong Stock Exchange and the Shanghai Stock Exchange. These two will be the market where we can find an IPO, or where we can find to raise other money. But this is a trend that is in place, and for the reason that we are discussing here, Italy can play really a great role to attract this money.
Okay, Fred.
I've got a consideration too. Perhaps could be of help to Bruno. We've seen here in Silicon Valley a kind of like a cross, kind of an intertwining between tech and pharma VC funds. Typically, these two environments were completely separated. Tech only did software, and pharma, only did therapeutics. Now they're kind of like invading each other's spaces. And especially, for Bruno's technology, that could be classified in some respects as synthetic biology. That's definitely within the interest of funds that, up to 10 years ago, maybe only did software. So, Andreessen Horowitz's, a model was software is eating the world, but they updated it to bio is eating the world. So I think there is this shared realization that a lot of growth is going to come in the next decades from, the bio and pharma spaces. I think there is also a second big opportunity for Italy we're seeing on the manufacturing side. Because of geopolitical reasons, and sometimes also because of technical reasons, for example, to manufacture, autologous cell therapies. You need to build facilities that are located, closer to the patients. And the big, nation states like the US and China, they also want pharma supply chains inside, their borders. So there is space for a third pole, for a third center of manufacturing, which is Europe. And I think Italy is in a good position to be actually the manufacturing center, in Europe. Definitely, there is a lot of manufacturing capability already in place, and we ourselves often, source components and machinery from Italian companies.
So one of the points that I wanted to bring up is I had a panel yesterday where I talked to a group of the top business development executives at Pfizer and Roche and a variety of Bayer and a variety of major companies where I was talking about their deal making right now. There's been a tremendous amount of deal making going on over the past year. It's all shipped over to Zoom, of course, where people are getting online and talking and things like that. I think initially it was pretty clear that the first wave of deal making that went on during the pandemic was focused on the pandemic between people that had relationships and existing relationships that often go back decades. And that was something that was interesting to me, and it also raised a concern that perhaps there wasn't going to be an opportunity for newer companies that are less known without a relationship to come in and establish one. So I wanted, and those are the partners that really do count, right? Because they bring money to the table, they bring technology to the table, they bring reputation to the table and recognition to the table. So I was curious whether from your perspective, that's an obstacle or whether this has been an opportunity, because they'd say that there was an opportunity, that they've kept the channels open and that things are continuing. Would somebody, we don't have a lot of time, but would somebody like to take that, Claudio, perhaps?
Well, you touch a very good point, John. Is the pandemic clearly, it's a quite peculiar situation. We never seen something like that before. Everything was established in a new completely way, including also the fundraising. And as you said, I think that all relationship really bring to I would say make the deal more robust and in a shorter term than because of the situation that we have at COVID. So if you have already partnership with an investor, it has been much more easier get a support for moving ahead the project. It is just a complaint about what I saw, but I see money going where the money are, and I would say small company with a more innovative also technology remain a big part in this discussion. So I think that innovation has been a bit penalized in this case because it is part of the small and medium enterprises core business. Fortunately, things are changing because also I would say we got new vaccine now, and we realized also that we need more vaccine, which is from a business perspective, a very good point, but from a pandemic situation, it means that we need to support, we need to sustain this situation, a lockdown situation for a longer period. And also companies like Reitera have been, I would say, had the opportunity in moving ahead into much more quicker for support and for bringing the project ahead. So you're right, connections are very good. Sometimes, especially in a crisis moment, you need to turn off your face and watch all around if there are also other competitive solutions for the emergency that we are living.
Okay. Well, we've run out of time for our panel conversation and introductions. I really appreciate everybody taking a moment to talk about your companies and what you're working on. ITA created a virtual platform for more than 60 Italian companies, a platform you'll have an opportunity to check out until January 22nd. And now I'd like to turn things over on the program to Lorenzo Ortona, the Consul General for Italy in San Francisco. Lorenzo.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you for the very, very interesting debate. And we are on time as well, so thank you. I am particularly pleased to introduce today the session of the Italian strategy and funds for the foreign direct investments, for the FDI. It is the first time in the 4 years that I've been supporting JP Morgan Health here in San Francisco that Italy dedicates a whole session to FDI. And this is not by chance. In this past couple of years, the Italian structure to attract FDI and support with dedicated funds, other funds and startup has really been developed in a very specific way. We will have the pleasure of listening today and hosting Mr. Marco D'Acunto, who comes from the agency of Invitalia, and Mr. Alessandro Scortecci of the National Innovation Fund of Cassa Depositi e Prestiti. I want to recall as well that the national system to attract FDI and the funding has as well is complemented, let's say, by the work of the Italian Trade Agency abroad. The Italian Trade Agency has dedicated desks for investment attraction that work hand in hand with embassies and consulates in many parts of the world. As you know, we have one dedicated desk here in San Francisco, directed by Mr. Alberto Acito, who is available to support all investors that are interested in these days and beyond in funding and discovering more about our companies and startups. The Italian companies that are greatly represented today in the session of JP Morgan 2021 and the startups that have been selected continue to attract investments worldwide, as we have heard, and companies as well, Italian companies, are more and more players and important players in incorporating startups, not only Italian, but abroad. So I want to underline this as well. This is an important point. Italian companies even recently have acquired very important startups in Europe, in the United States, and in Asia. It is therefore important to continue to insist on the vertical of life sciences, which remain a very, very important voice in the attraction of investments for Italy. And without further ado, our time is very short. I am very, very pleased to start the session and to give, therefore, the word to Mr. Marco D'Acunto of Invitalia, and right after to Mr. Alessandro Scortecci. So, Marco, we leave you the word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Consul Ortona. Good morning, everybody. My name is Marco D'Acunto and I work for Invitalia, the Italian national agency, government-owned, dedicated to industrial and economic development of our country. Invitalia is also in charge of inward investment attraction, and this activity is carried out through the program Invest in Italy in close cooperation with the Italian trade agency. In order to promote Italy as a valuable business location abroad and to attract foreign investments, our activity is based on three strategic lines. The first line is the definition of business opportunities related to strategic sectors of our economy that include, of course, life sciences. We draw up different kinds of proposals addressed to potential investors that include startups and scale-ups capital seeking, such as the companies you've just heard, a portfolio of specific high-tech projects implemented by innovation players that are looking for a partner for an industrial, research, or financial collaboration. Our offer is made up also of value propositions of Italian regional life sciences ecosystems with a special focus on high-tech clusters, science parks, innovation hubs. For instance, one of these is Toscana Life Sciences, that is a remarkable research hub and bioincubator that today is represented here from Professor Rino Rappuoli. These activities carried out together with the key players of the sector. Many of them are present here this morning. The industrial associations, Pharma Industria and Industrial Biotech, Alisei, the National Cluster, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti Venture Capital, that with Mr. Scortecci will speak just after me, and so on. The second line of activity is the assistance services for foreign investors. They are free of charge services that we provide throughout the entire investment process, from pre-investment information to the business setup, as well as after the investment with aftercare services. These services include location scouting and site visit, financial and incentive advisory, support for obtaining authorizations and permits in order to speed up the investment process, assistance for HR recruiting, and so on. The third line of strategic activities are the incentive programs. Invitalia directly manages some of the most relevant schemes available in Italy, and in addition, we also promote other remarkable measures of the Ministry of Economic Development. It's a wide portfolio of incentive schemes, supporting large industrial projects, boosting R&D activities, as well as the creation and development of innovative startups. Thank you very much for your attention. You can contact me at Invitalia for any further information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alessandro.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Ortona. It's a pleasure being here with such a great panel of entrepreneurs and experts in biotech. Just a couple of introductory words on CDP Venture Capital. We are a private investment manager that focuses on venture capital. We invest mainly in Italy, actually primarily in Italy. And the reason why GDP Venture Capital was created just a year ago, is to make the venture capital and innovation one of the key pillars of the Italian economy. As some of you might know, Italy historically has been lagging a bit behind our European peers when it comes to venture capital. We have about 600 million euros invested on a yearly basis in VC, which is quite low compared to the 5 billion of France or the 10 billion of the UK. This said, we have a strong foundation, and the fact that we have such a strong panel of companies and startups and entrepreneurs here today is testament to that, to the innovation, the talent, and the expertise that Italy has, and the fact that it can build, on this strong foundation. The strategy that GDP Venture Capital has developed over the last few months to achieve our objective is twofold. On one side, we're investing and filling the gap in capital in the venture capital industry in Italy. On the other side, we're developing the market, the system, and the community to ensure a sustainable growth for the venture capital ecosystem in Italy. When it comes to investments, we've built a comprehensive ecosystem of funds that basically cover the entire life cycle of startups, going from pre-seed and seed all the way to late-stage investments. And we invest both directly and indirectly. Today, we have about 1.3 billion of assets under management, and we have 7 funds active, going from generalist early stage funds to a fund of funds, an accelerator fund, a fund focused on tech transfer, and a fund focused on corporate venture capital. So we're also aiming to activate and catalyze investments from large corporates and, of course, institutional investors. So one of the key objectives that we have in developing the market is clearly attracting investments both from Italian institutions and investors, as well as from foreign investors. And clearly, this event today is a great opportunity for me to share a bit what we're doing and hopefully create some opportunities for exchange and interaction with some of you on the other side of the screen. Just to give you a sense for what we've been able to do over the course of the last 12 months, we've already deployed and invested about 250 million euros, and we have a portfolio of about 120 startups, 8 funds, and 8 accelerator programs that have been approved and will be launched over the next few months. Clearly, we've also been focusing on biotech and life science, and actually about 90 million of the investments that we've made are actually focused in this sector. Our objective clearly is to achieve about to bring the Italian VC market to hit the 3 billion mark by 2022, so that we can reach a level that is commensurate to our economy and in line with our European peers. So I'll be very happy to engage with any of you after this event and share opportunities to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alessandro, and thank you, Marco, for this very precise and extensive description of the structure that has been built in Italy on all that is strategy and funds for FDI. And now to our last session, to the keynote remarks. And I am particularly honored and pleased to be able to introduce Mr. Sergio Dompe, and Mr. Rino Rappuoli, who I had the pleasure of meeting in the past sessions of JP Morgan Health. Sergio Dompe is the CEO of Dompe Farmaceutici and B20 Task Force Chair for Health and Life Sciences. And Rino Rappuoli is the Scientific Coordinator of Monoclonal Antibody Discovery, MAD, and the lab of the Toscana Life Science Foundation. They don't need any introduction or presentation. They are protagonists of the life science in Italy, in Europe. And without further ado, I have the honor and pleasure to give the word to Mr. Sergio Dompe. Grazie.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo. I appreciate it. COVID-19 devastated our lives in the past year, representing a shock that has no precedent in the past 70 years. Probably the wars represented the same change. But when there is a shock, there is a crisis, there is a possibility to see opportunities. Which opportunities? First, healthcare. It's the first time that everyone has to understand that healthcare is crucial, not only for our lives, not only for the human rights, but for economy. It's crucial to the economy. Another lesson. Could you have ever thought that in less than 10 months, since the research activities, development activities, clinical trials performed, and approvals, everything done in 10 months? That is incredible. Personally, I am convinced that in the coming 3-6 months we'll arrive to 8-10 vaccines and probably the same number or a similar number for drugs. So this is outstanding. And the example that the company gave in production, the various activity they are managing, is, in my opinion, a very good example of how Italy can contribute to this kind of picture. And this year in Italy, we'll have the honor to host the G20 and B20. And no doubt that this is an incredible challenge again, because we are tired of having output of 75 pages when you have so many priorities that you never can focus something. This is the moment where healthcare and life sciences have to play the role, the key role, for the reason I explained. And I have the pleasure to be co-chair together with Mr. Werner Baumann, that is the CEO of Bayer, with Geoff Martha, that is the CEO of Medtronic, with Leon Wang, who is the CEO of AstraZeneca China. That is very important because they have been very able to equalize the public interest and we hope so the private ones, and the head of the Genetic Institute of London, Sir Mark Cofield, Genomic England. Italy has first a great healthcare system and a good research model. Remember, if you consider the total output of healthcare in terms of parameters, and you consider how much or how less we spend into healthcare, we can consider Italy one of the best nations in the world. We have companies The ambassador told you, and he is correct, that is today, together with Germany, or a little bit before Germany, we are the #1 producer of drugs into Europe, and it's true. We have startup, we have the IRCs, the Hospital Institutes for Research, and we have been pioneers in many of the recent milestones. We have been into about stem cell, about gene therapy, and many other. And Rino Rappuoli was the first one in the world to use the genomic in the development of vaccines. So he is one really of the most important and expert person in the world. And now we have an opportunity. Gentlemen, we have an opportunity because no doubt that we had no such a favorable moment in the past years to ask to investors for investments in our field. And networking is key. Networking is another lesson that we are getting from this pandemic, because we see big multinationals usually competing between them that are cooperating in the production of vaccines, into the research. And there are many, many activities where partnering is the key word. The cooperation, the network. We are leading an European efforts of applying artificial intelligence under the cap of the European Commission to produce with polypharmacology candidates for the development of anti-COVID, and we succeeded in giving already candidates to be developed. It doesn't matter who will win. It's key that together we have to win. And in this case, it's even simpler to connect companies and research centers of different nations working on a competitive edge of that piece of science. I think that we can't miss our role today. We need to be really effective. It's our moment. We can't miss the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dompe. Thank you for reminding us of the time we're living and the opportunities that lay ahead. Without further ado, leave the word to Mr. Rino Rappuoli. Grazie, Rino.
Well, hi, Lorenzo. Very nice to see you again, although virtually. As you know, today I'm here to represent Toscana Life Sciences, and we'll talk about human monoclonal antibodies for COVID. I spent the last 40 years developing vaccines, and I'm still chief scientist at GSK Vaccines, and GSK has a site in Siena, Italy, where I work with 2,500 people where I have manufacturing, research, and development. And in the past, I was developing vaccines, having a research center in Siena, but also the times of was working chief scientific officer of Chiron Corporation. I spent 15 years in San Francisco, and this year I really missed the JP Morgan possibility to come back and see San Francisco again. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do it. I've done that with Novartis when I was head of vaccine research and development for vaccines for Novartis in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the new work that I'm doing, still here in Siena, where basically a couple of years ago, I got a research grant to set up, with the okay from GSK, an academic lab in the incubator, which is located here in Siena, which is called Toscana Life Sciences, which has been mentioned before. Toscana Life Sciences is a research hub and an incubator that started at the beginning of the 2000s, and now has more than 400 people, approximately 45 startups, and a few and few basically research labs. One of these labs is mine, where I started with a grant from the European Union, European Research Council grant, basically to develop human monoclonal antibodies against bacteria resistant to antibiotics. You know that today we are basically dealing with the pandemic of COVID, but there is another pandemic that is much softer, but is coming and is not going to be stopped, which is the one of antibiotic-resistant bacteria. That we'll have to deal with that. And so I had to set up an academic lab to do human monoclonal antibodies for bacteria resistant to antibiotics when in January 2020, COVID-19 came. And then since I had the people able to develop human monoclonal antibodies, said, well, it's our duty to do monoclonal antibodies for COVID. So we started taking blood from convalescent people. We basically screened blood from many people, more than 5,000 memory B cells specific for COVID. And our goal was not just to find another human monoclonal antibody. You know, there are approximately 20 groups worldwide that are developing human monoclonal antibodies for COVID, but most of them took the first one that came, which are moderately potent antibodies. So they need grams of antibodies, very expensive for people. And the most famous one is the one of Regeneron that basically was given to Trump, but they needed 8 grams to give that to him. Intravenous injection, very expensive, very difficult to manufacture. I mean, although effective, that's okay. Our goal was to find extremely potent human monoclonal antibodies would be 10, 100 times more potent than the others that could be given not by intravenous injection, but could be given by, not by intravenous infusion, but that could be given by a normal injection, so not necessarily in the hospital. We found those monoclonal antibodies, we scaled them up. We partnered with a local Italian company that is Menarini. They have the possibility to manufacture that. So we did a GMP manufacturing. We filled the antibodies, and now we are basically in the position to start clinical trials, which are going to start very shortly. So I'm well aware there are a couple of 3 companies that in the US that have been already got emergency use application for human monoclonal antibodies. We are coming a little bit later than them, but I think we have something much more potent and much more less expensive to manufacture, easier to handle because it's going to be injectable instead of intravenous infusion. And so I think that's what's going on, and so basically that's what I wanted to share with you. So it's we do have the ability to develop in a competitive way very sophisticated and powerful antibodies, and obviously we are doing now for COVID, but we continue also our work for bacteria resistant to antibiotics and for other potential pathogens. With that, I want to thank you for your attention, and hopefully we'll see each other in San Francisco at some point for the next JP Morgan, or maybe before.
Grazie, Rino. Thank you very much. And I think we have actually finished right on time, which is incredible given the diverse sessions that we had and the round table. I thank you for following us, and I thank all the speakers for their very, very interesting talks. I want to remind, as President Ferro has said at the start, that there will be the possibility in the next days, this week and next week, to visit the companies on the platform that has been dedicated to this by the Italian Trade Agency. So we invite you, if you have any questions, to visit the platform and to get in touch with us, with the desk for foreign attraction and investment here in San Francisco, and for the ITA agency in Los Angeles. We are here to give you our support. Allow me to end the session on a personal note. It has been my fourth JP Morgan Health Italia as the Italian Consul General that I have been following. It has been my biggest honor and pleasure, not only because I truly believe that the industry keeps on attracting funds and therefore allowing for more workplaces to be formed in Italy and for our economy to thrive. But as it was remembered today, the most important thing is that what you all do, the industries and the startups in this field, are helping our citizens, are helping Italian citizens, and are helping citizens worldwide in bettering their health. And there again, I underline what Mr. Dompe has just said. It is incredible what happened in these past months and this year. And I think it just shows how important your work is for all of us. So thank you again. Grazie. Thank you for following this session. And I look forward to hosting 2022.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Ciao.
Hopefully in San Francisco. Yes.
Grazie, Lorenzo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Grazie a tutti.
Thank you. Grazie.
Grazie.
Thank you. Grazie.
Bye-bye.
Arrivederci. Grazie.
Arrivederci.